5 weeks ago to the day, I had a total hip replacement. But the positive from that is 2 weeks after the operation, I was back on that turbo trainer. Now, as positive as it is, it hasn't been smooth sailing, and I'm gonna go through what happened on the day of the surgery, but more importantly, how I've come back to get on my bike 2 weeks after the operation. If you're new to the channel, my name's Russ. The last video I did explains why I needed a hip replacement, so go check that out next. Let's get into today's video. You're going through this surgery, you get given a pack and you're fully prepared for what to expect. You have to use special shampoo, and then the night before the surgery, there are these NHS kind of like beta sachets, and if you're used to taking normal energy supplements, these are grim on a whole nother level. Anyway, the last one of those went down my neck, probably 6:30 in the morning, because I had to stop taking in any food by 7 AM, and then off I went to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, James, the anaesthetist, proper sound guy, came to see me, and he explained that I'd be having a spinal block, which would mean I don't feel anything from the waist down and I'm completely numb. He then explained that I'd have the option to stay awake or be knocked out, and in my head I'm thinking, why the hell would I want to stay awake for this? So I asked him, and he said that if you get knocked out, then not literally, he's not going to come and hit me. If you get induced and then go to sleep, it just means that it takes longer for you to wake up and come around afterwards to a point where you can take in food and drink. Now, it was mid to late afternoon by the time I saw James, and I'm already getting ravenous and hungry at that point. So I'm already planting the seed in my own head that maybe I'll stay awake, but this isn't a decision I have to make now. Not long after James came in, Tony, he's the surgeon, absolute legend, he came in, marked up my leg with an arrow, and then started saying to me that, look, once your sutures come out, I'm happy for you to have a few gentle spins on your turbo. He said, you want to get a little step ladder, which you should see propping up that lamp in the background, and then step over with your non-operated leg. And again, emphasised, no resistance, just gentle spinning. I get wheeled through into the pre-op room. I had the spinal block, they checked that I was numb and I couldn't feel anything, and then they've wheeled me through. James has again said to me that, look, if you want anything, just raise your hand or tap. And I was there lying sideways with some screen between me and the surgeon and his team. Now, there was a TV in the room, but luckily it wasn't showing what was happening. And I was tempted to ask could I film it, but I thought you better not. And I just lay there for an hour. Now, there were a lot of noises, and I'll leave it at that in case you're squeamish, but I didn't feel a thing, and it was fine. When it was all over, I got wheeled out to this post-operating room where the nurse was just staring at a screen with all my vitals on and just checking everything was okay. At that point, I got my first drink, which I was so relieved to have because my mouth was drier than the Sahara and it tasted like amber nectar. I was like, oh, I needed that. I'm not gonna lie, that first night was rough. The spinal block took about 5 or 6 hours to wear off, and in that time I couldn't even move my legs. I couldn't go to the toilet or anything. The nurses were coming in every hour to give me meds, check on my vitals, and I had these compression socks that kept kind of pumping up and deflating, and the noise from that was keeping me up. Now, as much as a whinger I am, everything that was happening was to keep me healthy and stop a blood clot. I tried to rest as best I could, but I just couldn't get off to sleep, and I didn't get a wink that night. The next day, the physio came in, and I went on the first walk down the corridor with her, and I went through all the exercises. Now, at this point, I'm already asking, what extra exercises can I do to try and speed up my recovery? And she's looking at me saying, well, why are you trying to speed it up? You've got to listen to your body. When are you going back to work? And when I told her I planned to go back in 10 days, like the surgeon and the nurses before, she just laughed at me. She went, not a chance. You need time to recover, a minimum of 6 weeks. So anyway, I did the exercises as best I could, and then I left the hospital with a few essentials, like a shoehorn, which was a game changer, and a raised toilet seat. We won't get into that now. Everybody at that hospital was amazing. The advice, the care, that has contributed 100% to me getting back on that trainer 2 weeks later. So I've mentioned a few names, but a few of them said they wanted to keep their anonymity, and I respect that. But thank you to everyone who's helped me out of the hospital. And I'll be seeing them all anyway, which I'm sure they're all delighted at when I go back for my second hip to be replaced in a few months. I really can't stress enough how important and crucial those early baby step exercises are, because they've played a massive part in me regaining my basic ability to be able to get back onto that bike in the first few weeks. Now the hip abductions, they were the hardest ones to do. So when you're lying down and you're moving your leg from a central position to the right, for the first day or so, I had no independent movement. And even with a plastic bag to help with friction underneath my heel, I had to get my partner to move my foot so that I could try and move my leg. Now that was surreal doing that. That was a humbling experience, and it put into context and perspective how long this road back to fitness is going to be. So I need to temper my expectations because I can't get carried away here. The pain in the first week wasn't that bad, and I was able to come off the painkillers by probably the 5th or 6th day. But what was bad for me was the swelling in my right foot and then not being able to sleep. To sort the swelling out, I bought a wedge pillow and I would just elevate every single hour with an ice pack on my wound, and that seemed to bring it down a lot because that was stopping me sleeping because my foot was hurting, and as a side sleeper, I just can't sleep on my back. Poor sleep doesn't just impact your recovery because you need good sleep to recover. There's the mental aspect of it as well. The exercises, as I've said before, are crucial to your recovery, and I made sure that I did them every single day, 4 times a day. Now don't get me wrong, I wasn't sleeping as I've just said, and there were days when I didn't even want to go out for a walk. Even on those days I did my exercises. Now, first week I just stayed indoors, I walked indoors. Second week I ventured out in the big wide world for the first time. I took both crutches, but there were a few times where I pushed too much, went down to one crutch, and then even started walking for a sustained period with no crutch. Now I won't be doing that again when I have my left hip done, because the groin pain I've had, which is the only severe pain I've had since the operation, is exacerbated every time I walk, especially in the early days when I didn't take a crutch. So look, lesson learned, a lot of this is learning from mistakes. 2 weeks after the surgery, it was a trip down to the doctors and I got the sutures taken out. And if you're worried about that, it's not painful at all. And the feeling of relief when they came out, I can't even put into words, because your leg feels so tight with all those clips inside it. And then it's just like a release. She said the wound looks good, which is always weird to hear, but I'm happy to hear it. No sign of infection, good to go. 2 days after the sutures came out, I got set up for the first spin on the turbo. With the help of my partner, I got changed because I couldn't bend down to do my boas, and I stepped on that turbo behind me with all the grace of a drunken ballet dancer. It was not a good look. And the first pedal stroke hurt. It was stiff, It was uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie about that. I left it in the easiest gear, and when I found the right gear, it felt okay, it felt good. There was no pain. And if I compare that to walking, it was worlds apart. The mental boost from being able to do that, and I absolutely hate being on the turbo, was fantastic. It felt so good. And I've gone from that, 6 sessions later, building up to 40, to yesterday managing 45 minutes on the turbo. Looking back, the first 2 weeks are 100% the hardest part of it. But now the only pain I get is from walking, and that's pain in my groin. Cycling is completely pain-free. Now, if I look back in hindsight, I definitely pushed too much in that first 2 weeks trying to walk off the crutch. But lesson learned, I won't be doing that when I have my left hip done in a few months. It's a slow journey, and I've accepted that. It's going to be months of doing zone 1 active recovery that out on the road you'd nearly fall asleep at because you were going so slow. But it's not all about speed, it's about rebuilding a foundation. And if you're going through something similar, I hope what I've learned and what I'm sharing can help you out. Staying positive is so crucial in this. If you're wondering how I've even ended up in this situation, needing a double total hip replacement at 45, then go and watch this video next, because it gives full context, and I'll catch you on the turbo soon. See you later.